Thank you, Michael. It's not often I get the opportunity to introduce a brand new application, but I've been able to do that a little bit in the past. But I've never been honoured to introduce a brand new video editing application, and I've never been honoured to introduce a brand new class of video editing application. But tonight I'm going to show you Lumberjack Builder. Lumberjack Builder is text-driven video editing. It's a step beyond script sync, it's a new approach, and I am really proud that Greg and I have managed to develop this together. If you saw the recent Off the Tracks documentary about the history and current state of Final Cut Pro 10, then you would have heard Randy Ubilis talk about how he developed the skimmer, that key feature that came out in iMovie 08, originally intended to be a pre-editing tool for Final Cut, but hijacked by Steve Jobs into being a consumer tool. Well, Randy talked about how he invented the skimmer for a particular use of his. Randy Ubilis, in case you don't know, is the original writer of Premiere before Adobe bought it. He was the original writer of Final Cut, versions 1 through 7. He was involved in leading the teams for Aperture and Final Cut Pro 10. But in this context, it's iMovie 08 where he introduced skimming. And he talked about using skimming because he was going on a diving vacation. And the best software developments always come out of a personal need. And that always works well. And they were going to do a lot of underwater footage where it was going to be blue, 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 shark, blue, blue, blue. And the traditional scrubbing in Final Cut didn't cut it for him. So I came up with the idea of skimming. And skimming is brilliant. Hover scrub if you want to go with a Premiere Pro clone of Apple's idea. But it's a great idea when you have a lot of change in the footage, or where you need to have a lot of visual information, where you need to sort visually. Combined with keywords and favourites and reject, it's a really great way to organise your footage. And next to useless for interviews. So perhaps if Randy's interests had fallen more towards documentary storytelling, then maybe he'd come up with something that was a little bit more text-based. Maybe something that used transcripts and paragraphs as the organising unit. Something that still supported keywords on paragraphs, but allowed paragraphs to be broken apart and rejoined into more logical thought units to apply keywords to. That would have even better filtering tools than Final Cut Pro 10 has, and where story building is as easy as dragging building blocks around. Well, Randy went on a diving vacation and invented the skimmer. I'd like to show you the app that I think he would have invented had he dived into a family history project. So this is a brand new Builder document. It's tightly integrated with Final Cut Pro 10 via XML. And there's some interviews. And you can see that we support Final Cut Pro 10's event structure. So if you send multiple events here, you'll have multiple events in this style, this window. You can fold those events like you can in Final Cut Pro 10. And I could start working right now. I could add transcripts or do it, but I just got word that we finally got that interview with Leon that we've been looking for some months. And so we've got those interviews with Leon now. I'm just going to drag those to Builder. And you can see now we've added extra clips to the event without duplicating any clips, which is going to be important because documentary projects tend to develop over time. I know that there were extra interviews in the version of Off the Tracks that was released versus the one I saw last October. So we could add transcripts right now, or we could buy transcripts, except for that's grayed out. And you might think it's a little odd that an app that is touting AI machine speech to text and extraction of keywords as being a key feature doesn't actually have that feature on first release. Well, you'd be right, it's pretty odd. However, we were the first to get transcripts into Final Cut Pro 10 back in 2015, for Patrick, in fact. And as much as Patrick appreciated that, we looked at the workflow in Final Cut Pro 10 and said, Patrick's off his rocker, it sucks. So before we look at integrating the speech to text, which are kind of commodity items these days, we decided we had to solve the problem of the workflow first. And the workflow is what I'm going to show you now, something that actually works with transcripts. So we've got a mixture of transcript types in this particular project. We support almost every transcript format on the planet. If you want to go to YouTube and do free SRTs, you can bring them into Builder. These happen to be some computer-generated stuff from the service that we're going to use, and also some material that has been human transcription. It comes from this project. This is an edit stock footage project. If you're not familiar with edit stock, you should definitely be. If you want real projects to practice editing on, that's what edit stock provides. So it comes with some of these transcripts, but I'm going to select the one that matches the clip name, and the clip name and the media file name are the same in this case, but the clip name is what's important. And I match that one, and you can see that Builder is going through and matching up all of the rest of the transcripts as well, with the exception of one transcript, which is Jonathan singing. Well, I don't really want transcripts of singing. That doesn't quite gel, so we didn't do transcripts for that. Coming over here, the first place I just set in here. Now I can play.
I heard that you stayed through the night.
Yeah, my partner and I, we stayed during the night.
Right, two things there. Obviously that first part is a question and not really part of an answer, so it's not going to be a select that we might ever want to use. And the first part of the answer is also really a little clumsy. It goes back and restates, so it's a better use of that transcript. I'm going to go up to that first one, and I'm going to hit the delete key because that's reject in Final Cut Pro 10, and we're going to reject that clip. It hasn't gone anywhere, it's still there, it's just metadata that has been told to ignore this. I'm going to add a name here. I can go Command P to take me into the people field and type in Jada, and that names it for all of these paragraphs that are selected. Whatever you do to one paragraph is done to all. And I'm also, while they're selected, I'm going to apply a paper color. Back in the days of really printing, of doing paper cuts, literally cutting paper and sticking it together, each different speaker was printed on a different coloured paper so you'd know who was speaking. Because when you did that, you would then have a very clumsy, time-consuming conform back into whatever editing application that you do not have with Builder. So if I go Command 1, I take me back to my clips list. I'm going down to Jada seeing her old home. Oh, before I leave that one, we had Ike, not Art. This is a computer-generated transcript, so it's not absolutely perfect, but it's not bad, this one. And of course, this paragraph and the one before are really part of the same thought. So I can use my left square bracket to join it with the paragraph before, or the right square bracket to join it to the paragraph after. And now I can apply just one person, because it carried the keyword forward. If I go to my clip list, Command 1, the same as events in Final Cut Pro 10, jinxing old home. Command 2 takes me back to my transcript list. And again, this is a human transcription, and it's had a couple of problems. It wasn't incredibly accurate. If you listen to the end of it, it doesn't finish properly.
Because it's been up since the 60s. It stood Hurricane Carla.
So because the timestamps aren't absolutely accurate, and we have to average between timestamps on most human-generated transcripts, we have the ability in Builder to trim a clip. So if I go in here and show my trimming, I can trim back the end of that clip and see if that's a better match.
Since the 60s.
That's about where I need to finish.
Yeah, I haven't been to these.
So just trim a little bit back.
Because it's been up since the 60s.
Perfect. And because I've trimmed that end, the next one...
It stood Hurricane Carla.
It also matches up on the next one. We've just changed the actual edit point between the paragraphs. I'm going to apply a... there. And I'm going to go back over here to Prayer Vigil. Now this is also a computer-generated transcript, and I have to say it's probably not the finest example of computer-generated transcripts.
Restoration Ministries. I'm the co-pastor of the gentleman that spoke, said the prayer, the first prayer. That's the pastor, Pastor Manny Thomas. Amen. Pastor
many times, amen. The man is not trying. Pastor many Thomas, the man. Amen. So. Combination here, the audio quality is pretty awful. It's very open, and the accent is quite strong. In those circumstances, you can't expect computer speech to text to do a great job. And the great thing is that we don't need it to be perfect. In fact, I'm not even going to bother doing any corrections to the dialogue in this particular example, because I'm not going to use this very much, most likely. But I will keyword it. So I'm going to break this paragraph apart, because that's where that thought starts, and join it with the next paragraph using the right square bracket. Okay, I'm just going to Command Alt add a name in here, Command P to go into the people field. So I don't have a name, but she said she was the co-pastor, not the pastor. So she was the spaghetti, not the pastor. Bad jokes. Yeah. Okay, so this is clearly about justice. Now, I know it's about justice because I can quickly scan the text. I don't have to play that 15, 20 seconds to know that this is about justice because I've got the text. So I can simply go into my keyword field, and that's Command K to get in there, go to the next one, Command K, and because I've already entered justice once, it auto-completes. Let's give her a paper colour. And probably down here we could probably add a keyword for creation. And with a paper colour can be applied to multiple different people. We don't have to have the same paper colour all the way through. So here we have an interview with two people, Paul, and not Paul. So just shift select all those. And I'm going to apply the peach paper colour to Paul. And then Jada, I'm going to apply the same lavender. But I just noticed while I was doing that somebody has been watching a little too much Food Network. And Jada has come in as Giada, who is a Food Network star, not a drag queen in Galveston. Now, it would be fairly easy to go through and select each paragraph, but I don't know in which transcripts it's been mislabeled. And I really don't like working hard and going and finding out. So we have a keyword manager, something that I think Final Cut could definitely use. And here we can see we have both names, and I can just update every instance of Giada to Jada by doing that. Not a keyword range changed, but every instance, whatever transcript it was in, has been updated. And we'll see a lot more of the keyword manager in just a moment. That's my introduction. I'm just going to stand here and get rid of that. I'll sit here and get rid of it. This is one that I prepared earlier. It's got a lot more keywording. I've gone through and I have keyworded everything. I've gone and got keywords. I've deleted some things that are not very important. I've made some favourites along the way. You'll see favourites show up as slightly italicized. Anything that's been deleted, anything that's been rejected is there's the italicized favourite. Anything that's been rejected is simply greyed out. I deliberately didn't look at many of these clips until I was ready to do the proper logging because, unfortunately part of the demo is you've got to log everything anyway, even though you're not going to show 90% of that work. I was a little surprised that I was able to log all this in under 2.5 hours. I'd expect it to be a lot longer. And particularly, I decided that I would time myself. This is a 14.5-minute clip. Normally, I would expect a 14.5-minute clip to take 2 to 3 times over that. So half an hour to 45 minutes to properly log and keyword 14.5 minutes. It took me exactly 7 minutes. Half the time of the runtime of the clip to comprehensively log the clip. And you know why? Because I didn't have to listen to 14.5 minutes of clip. Because everything is transcribed, I can very quickly see in this is a previous hurricane, and the hurricane's name was Rita. It's really, really fast to scan across text. In fact, scanning is the new skimming. No? Okay. And now the keyword manager becomes a lot more useful. One of the first uses is that, of course, I can see where I've done slightly too similar keywords. If you don't do everything in one pass, if you stop and go to the bathroom or go and get a cup of coffee, you can forget that you were doing being BOI and not just BOI. So I can update all of the instances of those keywords across the entire job just by dragging and dropping the keyword that I want onto what I need. I also think I had some, I'm not sure, but yeah, discrimination. I use discrimination occasionally, but then racial discrimination in most of my logging. So I'm just going to make sure that they're both the same and subsumed. The other thing that I can do is that I can't do in Final Cut is I can sort by duration applied of a keyword, so that I can see that I've only applied stay to 7 seconds of media. It probably shouldn't be a keyword. If it's 7 seconds, if it's 15 seconds, if it's 32 seconds, it's not a main theme in this documentary. It's not a legitimate keyword. And it's only going to clutter up this interface and clutter up Final Cut Pro 10 when you go back there. So I'm just going to delete all of them that are not really relevant and select them all delete. I've cleaned those keywords off where every instance that they were used, cleaned them out of the system, but I have left every keyword range, every paragraph untouched. Another great thing that we can do here is if we...
You got rid of the keyword, but the range is still there?
Because our range is based on a paragraph, and so the paragraph always has to have a keyword, even if it's only the person keyword. In fact, if there's no person identified, then we will simply use the clip name as the person name, because we must have a keyword range across every paragraph. You can have multiple keywords on those paragraphs, but you must have one. One of the great things is that Lumberjack Builder is connected into the entirety of the Lumberjack system. Real-time logging, post-logging, note logger, these are all part of Lumberjack system. And I can see that one of my production assistants has gone in and entered the correct names for this. They can enter these into the web logger via any web browser, and then I can pull them back down into Builder and apply them. So we now have a name for that co-pastor, and we have a proper name for Jada. Jonathan is Henry, and I'm guessing that Lewis Henry is Jonathan's father. Just a lucky guess, really. And these are renaming every instance across the entirety of our document of these keywords. And we can also see here, if I've talked about hurricanes, sometimes I've used previous hurricanes, sometimes I've used past hurricanes, but we can see that previous is the preferred use based on the keywording that's been done elsewhere in this project. So I'm simply going to use the previous keywords on the past keywords. I could drag from here as well. And that's the keyword manager, and that's the preparation work. That's the dull part of the presentation. That's the part that gets us ready. We could send this back to Final Cut Pro 10 at this point. Send it clips, directly update the event if it's in Final Cut Pro 10 with all these new keyword ranges. The transcript will go into the notes field for those keyword ranges. If you know how to sort for it, you can search within those transcripts usefully. If you don't, then you won't. But I would rather show you what really excites me, and that is the filtering and the story building part, because that's the part where we get to be creative. This part is the dull part that is not creative. If you are coming into this interface for the first time, you will be prompted for a name for the story, but I've been through this demo a couple of times and it's already entered. And you can see here on the left we have all of our selects from the entire project, paper colours all applied, and we can filter that list down to try and find the footage that we want by word or keyword. So climate change was a fairly big topic in this project. And we can see now it's an OR search, same as Final Cut Pro does. If you click on keywords in the filter in Final Cut Pro 10, it will search on OR. So if either word appears in the text or in the keyword, it will match. That can be useful, but getting exchange student matching on climate change is not that useful. So we have also available an AND search. So now only where both words show up. And you can additionally sort by favourites only. And so now I have my favourites that match climate change, but you can see that only one of those 3 clips contains the words climate change. The others have had the concept of climate change applied via a keyword. So we're using the best of both worlds, the transcription tools in an interface where we use them usefully, plus the filtering tools. And this is the first clip I'm going to use because I've been working on this before. I already know. I don't have to spend the long consuming time it takes to make creative decisions in front of you, and you'll be thankful for that. I could drag and drop across, but I'm actually going to hit the E key. The E key is the append key in Final Cut Pro 10, so it appends it to the story line. And I really don't want that whole clip in the story. Let me just play that. It's a bit long.
Galveston Island is going to have erosion, so the more and more you dig and put sand back up on top, you're giving that water someplace to go, and you're keeping us from becoming a swamp.
Yeah, 100 years from now is where we want to do it. And so we don't really want that rambling going on there. So I'll simply hit the delete key. It doesn't delete the media or the clip, it simply sends it back into the selects pool, the remaining part of the clip for use another time, or for not use at all.
So in this instance, then the delete key is not a reject?
The delete key is rejecting it from the storyline and putting it back into the pool. Okay. So if you want to think about it in that way. I also believe that he had something else to say about erosion. That was about beach erosion. Yes. So append that with the E key. And I really want this bit around here in Galveston and block from the water. So I don't want that one. I don't want that one. I want this one.
Our beaches.
And again, because this is a human transcription, the sloppiness doesn't have a lot of timestamps, so we average between those timestamps, and sometimes that gets a little out. If you're using computer-generated transcripts, every word is indexed and you don't get that sloppiness. But again, I can trim this, and you've got 5 seconds of trim either way.
In the 1960s.
That sounds good to me. It's good enough for a demo. Now, I believe Paul had something to say on that too, so I'm just going to go for Paul on my favourite, sure, climate change. So I'm going to add that to my storyline. But after all, the hurricanes is what we want. We don't want that bit. Reject it. And I'm just going to take the end piece. If I turn on thumbnails, we can see that we have some jump cut issues going on here. Now, you could decide to send that back to Final Cut Pro 10 and let that be covered with B-roll, and that's probably what I want to do because I think those two cuts go together nicely with a little tightening up. But we can fix that here because the storyline is completely magnetic, like a magnetic timeline, and everything will just get out of the way, and you can move the story around that simply. Now, I also know that young Jonathan had a really powerful comment about race, and I'm going to add that to the end. It's really just the end of this that is about race, so I'm going to get rid of that part. And he also had something to say about climate change, if I recall. And Jonathan, climate change there, but it's the good thing about a demo is you don't actually have to make the decisions. That's what really takes the time. But the whole idea of getting the interface out of the way so that when you make those decisions, they don't have to clumsily introduce them into the interface. Now remember, what we're editing here is the timeline that will appear inside Final Cut Pro 10. In danger. That's as much as he said that was useful. He rambled at the end like I'm doing. And this is a reasonably good story. Let's start playing this, previewing the story.
100 years from now, Galveston Island may not be here.
But after the hurricane, it definitely, I was kind of like, you know, this could happen at any moment. We have to take care of.
And we could play that
100 years from now, Galveston Island.
We could play that whole storyline through, or we can select. I just want to see how these two clips actually flow together, because I've got a feeling that they may not flow. So
you know,
I'm going to start playback.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, everything. We need to take better care of our earth, you know.
Although we have diverse cultures and many nationalities, we must realize that there is one race. Right.
That doesn't flow as cleanly as I'd like. I'm going to have to add a little bit of linking narration between the two. So I'm going to add a little temp voiceover. Click in here. The earth is the only... And the moment I hit return...
The earth is the only home we have.
Never again do you have to listen to your own voice during an edit. Not only that, we make that based on what your system voice is and your system language. So if you're working in a language other than English and you have your system set to that language, the voiceover will be generated in that language. And you'll notice that because we have a male voiceover, we have a male placeholder there. If it was a female voiceover, it would have a female placeholder in the thumbnail, just because we can. And when we want to export, we have the option of send it back to Final Cut Pro 10, which is immediately to a Final Cut Pro 10 on the same system. We can zip it up as an XML to send to Final Cut Pro on another system. We can save the story script, so that a script with all of the in and out points of the story and the text for the story. And we can save separately a document with all of the narration points and where they fit in the timeline, so you can approve them and then get them recorded. I'm going to send this to Final Cut Pro 10 and answer a question that somebody's about to ask. Yes, we are working on a PDF output that has the thumbnails and the text and the in and out points. It will come. It's just not going to be in the first release. It's trickier than you would expect. There's the edit that we had, and here's the cut.
100 years from now, Galveston Island may not be.
And we had the metadata for the name, so we might as well create a third for
But
you.
after the hurricane,
You can enhance it by using your own
I was
template.
kind of like, you know, this could happen at any moment.
Where
We
were
have
the
to take.
names? How were they attached?
The names were metadata in Builder. Back in
yeah.
here, we put names. Never waste metadata. Never waste metadata. So you notice here that the placeholder is also matching up, and it's got a marker, a to-do marker on it, because you've got to actually do something with this. And the last thing I need to show you in Final Cut Pro 10 is the timeline index, and you can see in the timeline index that you have all of your transcript is in the clips in the timeline index. So that's Builder. As I said, if Randy had gone... It has an optimized story building interface. Solving the workflow problem was much harder than integrating a transcript API. It has much more advanced searching and filtering than Final Cut Pro 10 has. You can preview any clip or story, be they multicam clip, synchronized clip, AV clip, or an audio-only clip. About 2 weeks ago, we were reading up about David Tillman working on the Diana story, and he had only audio. I thought, does Builder work only with audio? Could David use this? And it's like, well, it does now. And of course, instant temporary narration and automatic transcription and keywording. How much does this cost is about question I'm sure everybody's asking right now. Builder is included in your Lumberjack subscription. It costs you no extra to use Builder with your own transcripts than what you pay for everything you get in Lumberjack right now. So it's $110 a year or less than a trip to Starbucks every month. If you do transcripts, magic keywords, concepts and emotion detection from within our system, from within Builder, then it will cost you 35 cents a minute, which I believe is pretty good in the low end, middle end of the industry. It's a lot less than Rev at $1 a minute. It's less than SpeedScribe at 50 cents a minute. It's not the cheapest you can do, 25 cents a minute. So there's a little convenience factor, but you also get automatic extraction of keywords, concepts and emotion when you go through Builder. If you bring your own transcripts, you don't get that. I would love for you to all try this out, so I'd love to give you a month free. You can go to Lumberjack system/sign up, and then send me an email. Don't bother writing my email address down. Upstairs there are little pouches. Not only are they a useful pouch, it has my business card in it, so you have my email. So I want to sign me up for a month trial. I want to try Builder out. We're going to have about a 1 or 2 week beta. We just have one issue we have to solve before we can get a beta out. And then it will be available for everyone to use with the understanding that it's still under development, but it will be available to use while still being finished. Thank you very much. Did I come in on time?
No. I need your